Welcome to the premiere episode of The Big Puzzle on Awake Radio with your host, Barry Prince, presented to you by the Liberty Beacon Project.
Well, good evening, folks. Got to say it's a real pleasure to be here tonight, and thank you for lending me your ears and sharing a few thoughts and feelings we have here tonight. Going forward with this show, what I am going to attempt to do here over the next 3 or 4 months is bring forth individuals that are very, very informed with situations and affairs that are going on our planet. I am no expert on any subject per se, but I do profess to have a lot of common knowledge or common sense, and I can talk about just about any subject with anybody, but I'm going to attempt to bring forward some very, very intellectual people and share our thoughts and feelings about things right now that are a major concern on this planet. I was going to go down some rabbit holes tonight, but you know what? For the first show here tonight, I thought I'd go along something completely different and get your minds going in a different direction tonight. I have been joined by Daryl Grace tonight. He has got a site on Foragers, or on Facebook, which is called Foragers. Daryl's been a friend of mine for years, and what we wanted to do tonight was just share a few experiences that we've had picking and harvesting wild mushrooms and fungus in northern British Columbia, sharing with you some of the incredible evidence and information that's come out in the last couple of years, especially about a fungus that we're widely picking now in British Columbia called chaga. The reports that have come out on chaga here in the last couple of years for its effect on cancer are absolutely stunning, and the market for chaga is growing exponentially. That is just one of many herbs now we're finding and mushrooms in northern British Columbia in our forests that have got incredible healing properties. And as we go forward here in life, I think it's going to be more and more important that we explore these options. And what we're finding with these mushrooms is some of them, in the last couple of years, the reports coming out from universities about these effects on cancers and human disorders are really impressive, to say the least. So that's what I wanted to do tonight. I wanted to share a few of our experiences picking in the bush, our experiences around campfires and harvesting these mushrooms, the time we have in the bush, the camaraderie we experience with that. A very enlightening time of our year. I spend 2 months approximately every year picking mushrooms, and I'll tell you guys, it is without a doubt the funnest time I have in my life. It really gives me a chance to unwind and spend days in the bush, and along with that, we make very good money sometimes doing it. It's I've had days, actually, believe it or not, where I've made $2,000 cash picking mushrooms in one day. But those days, unfortunately, were in the 90s, and we don't see that anymore. But it's not unusual to go out and make a couple of $300 cash money every day picking mushrooms, which in my books is a good day, especially when it's cash money. We can keep it away from the governments and all those greedy guys in the tax office. But anyways, I'm going to let Daryl talk for a few minutes here. He's going to explain to you exactly what forage is all about, what the process we go through in picking chaga, and the markets that are developing around the world. I've found this to be really interesting lately. People that are consuming chaga are just the reviews are astounding. And I urge everybody after the show to take a look on the internet, punch in the search engine chaga, and punch in Foragers on Facebook and have a look at what Daryl and these guys are doing. I'm going to let Daryl talk just for a couple minutes here, and shortly I'm expecting to be joined by a friend named Bloomfield, and he's going to talk about herbs here shortly. So I'm going to turn it over to Daryl and let him talk for 5 minutes here. Daryl?
Hi, this is Daryl Grace. Thanks for welcoming me to your show. I want to talk for a few minutes here about the mushroom industry. Specifically, it covers about 8 months a year on the coast of British Columbia to the west coast of USA. It covers a variety of mushrooms and a variety of herbs and different kinds of material that we pick, even to grasses and to moss. And it all sells, a lot of it commercially to floral, or way to markets in Japan or Zurich, which is south. The mushroom industry started about 35 years ago by a guy named Todd out of Kitwanga, British Columbia. Then the old timers developed those trails where bridges and logging came to a lot of the areas. They developed the market for pines as we know it today, which is more of a North American market. There are just a Japan market. And it'll toss develop the industry to where I've sold mushrooms by the pound, pines for $365 a pound. Made as high as 3,500 in helicopter pits, coming out helicopter pits. And it's been quite the industry. It's developed from just pines into, say, fiddleheads in the spring now, or lobster mushrooms, morel mushrooms, chanterelles, blue chanterelles, cauliflower, hedgehogs, chicken in the woods, king blues, gabers. There's just a variety. It's about 12 varieties that we pick up for commercially that we can sell every day from anywhere between, say, $20 a pound to $2 a pound. And so you can go out in the day and harvest enough bounce to survive you during the day at about $200 to $300 a day throughout the season, throughout the year. Or you can do the mushroom trail, which covers from the start of fiddleheads in the spring. And then you pick fiddleheads in April to May, and then from May you travel up to the Yukon from May, June to July, and you pick fire morels. So when there's after forest fires, fire morels grow. And they're world mushroom fire morels, and especially fire morels are really, really sought after worldwide. And they fetch a price of $9 a pound fresh, or $90 for a pound dried. But you can hold into your hands and pumped up. The heaping pile in both your hands is $90. You can imagine if you dried 100 pounds of these in a season in 6 weeks in the Yukon, which we do every year. So this is part of the mushroom trail. So you start on fiddleheads, now you've done morels. And so after July, morels are done. You got to get out of the Yukon, or you're going to spend all your money up in the docks of the Yukon. So you come down to August, then you pick the lobster mushrooms. Then you pick those for August, and then it goes into chanterelles in later August. And you can dry a lot of lobsters, and you can sell those up $30 a pound. Or you can sell them fresh for like $3 to $5 a pound. You can make your living off them, a couple $100 a day. And you work with chanterelles, and you can get big loads of chanterelles. Some little areas in the bushes by a creek, old growth forest spots that are left. There's way too many left due to logging and etc. and land being bought up and consumed. And so you find these spots, and you can milk those spots, and hopefully next year they're left and not logged out by the new power line projects or pipelines coming into the area nowadays. And then you work into your faller mushrooms, and then your hedgehogs and your cauliflowers come alive in September, October. And then when the frost comes and it hits about 10 below, now you move out of northern BC and you work your way down to southern BC. And then you pick all the fall mushrooms all the way down, so you can pick them in, say, the caustic one, Okanagan pick in September to November. You can pick them in Powell River on the Sunshine Coast, or Ross or Port McNeil on the Vancouver Island, or Shannock and Cowichan Lake in southern Vancouver Island, southern Victoria. And you look to market now when you're picking down there. You can market a lot of your mushrooms down fresh right to restaurants, right to chefs back door it, or other organic farmers markets, organic or natural medicine food chains and stores. There's a lot of options on selling your mushrooms if you just sell them privately, and you can develop your own markets as we have on foragers. And then after you do wrap up the BC, then you can move down into Seattle, Oregon, Crater Lake areas, Mount Shasta areas, or Willits, Laytonville, Northern California. And you can pick all the way up to January. And then you can go back up to Oregon for black trumpets, and basically by end of February, you've wrapped up all the mushrooms, and you come back up to the northern BC, and you pick chaga, which is the winter pick, and then that lasts you all the way to fiddleheads. That's just a brief summary of what we're going to talk about later on, but here's back to Barry here.
Well, cool. Thanks, Daryl. Man, what we're trying to point out here, folks, no matter where you live in the world, no matter where you're situated, you can go out and find mushrooms in the bush. Morels and chanterelles grow all over the world, and they're incredibly tasty, man. If you make a salad up with chanterelles and bolitas and a couple cauliflowers and throw in a few pines and throw that into a stew, man, I'll tell you, you'll die for it. It's a really growing market, and we're finding some of the nutritional values of these mushrooms are incredible. So what we would like to point out to people is that, man, like I said, it doesn't matter where you live in the world. If you got spruce forest, if you got pine forest, chances are there's going to be morels or there's going to be bolitas. Our king bolitas are very, very sought after now. This is an incredibly growing market, and it's something that everybody can go out and do. If you've got, like I said, forest anywhere near where you live, chances are there's some kind of edible mushroom growing. Um, Besides that, I did have another guest who's supposed to come on tonight. I'm waiting for him to come in. He's been dealing with herbs all his life in northern British Columbia here. He's supposed to join me here in a few minutes, and I'd like to get him to share some thoughts, but he hasn't called in yet. So I'm just kind of winging this. My guest has stepped away here for a minute. But yeah, I've been harvesting mushrooms now for about 25 years, and what Daryl was sharing with you earlier about some of the what we call the heydays in the mushroom business when everybody in the world wasn't out picking pine mushrooms, and we weren't getting crops from Korea and Russia and China now is shipping pines. We were seeing pound prices going into the 50, 60, $100 a pound on a normal basis, and picking pines, boy, I'll tell you, back in those days, it was something that you did it a couple times and you were addicted because any day you can go out in the bush and make $1,000 in $100 bills at the end of the day and spend a day in the bush, which to me is probably one of the finest days you can spend in the world and make that kind of money. Well, it doesn't get any better. So that's what I wanted to share a few of those thoughts with you tonight. And Daryl, like I said, has stepped away here for a minute, but some of the nights we've had out in the bush, campfires, like we build campfires that you can see from space, and you'll sit around the campfire at night and listen to the wolves howl, man. And I'll tell you, it is something that just revitalizes your soul. What do you think of that, Paula? Have you ever picked mushrooms in your life?
I have. I have picked. It's been many, many years, and I didn't know what I was doing, but we had a good time.
Well, you know what?
But I wanted to break in and let you know. So far, amazing, and I can call that guest for you now, or we can go to a song and call him together and give you the choice.
Well, you said he'd be home.
Hi, everybody! It's so honored. I'm so honored to be on Barry's first show.
What do you mean honored? No, you know what, Paula, I was gonna. I mean, I do go down rabbit holes, guys, and like I will be going down rabbit holes. Like, and it's necessary that we talk about that, but it's also necessary that we share these thoughts because I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, there's nothing better than going in the woods. We don't make the money that we used to make picking mushrooms, but it's not about the money. It's getting out and connecting with nature and spending a day in the wilderness. And I'll tell you, that does more for your soul than any movie or any of. For me, it does more for my soul and revitalizes my mind than anything I can do. And I really look forward to every year. Unfortunately, I do a full-time job, so I only get a couple months to go do this. But I urge everybody to look into it. Like there is literally hundreds and hundreds of edible mushrooms out there and funguses that are growing on trees that have great value, great medicinal value. Anywhere in the world that birch trees grow, you will find chaga. And like I said, I come back to chaga again because of the reports I've read here in the last couple of years and the results I'm seeing people using it, that it is an incredible cancer killer. And it makes sense that a fungus growing on a tree will kill a fungus in your body. Yeah, let's go to a break just for a couple of minutes there, and we'll give Robin a call and see if I can pull him in. If not, I'll ramble on for a while, guys, and share a few of my thoughts with you. Hi, guys, we're back. Hi. Well, listen, I'm gonna start this little bit with a thank you to Awake Radio for allowing me this little time on the air to share my thoughts and feelings. This is my first show with Awake, and actually probably I think the 5th radio show I've ever done in my life. So bear with me if I stumble a little bit and if I mumble. Sometimes the words don't come out the way I want them to, but as time goes on, I'll try and correct those problems. One of the coolest people I've met on the internet since I've been on here, which is about a year now, I started tuning into radio stations and actually had the opportunity once to phone in and voice my opinion. And since then, I've been kind of taking this up as a hobby. But one of the coolest ladies I've met, and a lady whose ideas and attitudes of the world and visions for the future I share with just about every word she says, is Pattie Walkinturtle from TCT Radio. Pattie's been at this for many, many years, and through my time on the internet has become one of the sweetest people I've ever met. So without saying any more about Pattie, I'd like to introduce you to the radio world. She's a great soul, and we're talking about mushrooms and fungus and herbs here today, Pattie, and just like you to share a few thoughts and say hello to these people. Thanks for listening in.
Well, thank you, Barry, and congratulations on your first show. And it sounds like you're really doing great. And thank you for that wonderful introduction. And we have been friends for a long time, and we've shared a lot of information back and forth concerning mushrooms, fungus, and herbs. And as Paula was talking earlier, herbs in the United States, herbs everywhere else. I had a little problem with that too. But yeah, here in Kansas, we are kind of really unique in the respect that we have herbs that cross borders. You have your eastern herbs, you have your northern herbs, your southern, your western herbs. Kansas, being where it's at, is able to have a good, diverse amount of herbs here from each area and region, and except for the alpine, because Kansas is pretty flat. But there is an awful lot of good wild plants that grow here, nutritious and good for the health. And the way I've always believed in herbs is they are not medicine. There is they should not be classified as medicine. They are simply uh, built on principles and compounds of nutrition. Your body then uses those compounds and the nutritional content of these plants and produces what we would term medicine for our body, which is really just feeding the body the right vitamins, minerals, and nutrients for each part of the body. And Kansas is wonderful in being able to provide an abundance of nutritious plants that we can just go out and wild harvest. Every summer, I have a choice of plantain. I have mullein. I have now that I'm going to talk to you, but we have curly dock. We have just a wide range of different types of herbs and stuff. Yarrow, Queen Anne. All of these herbs grow here in Kansas, so we're pretty fortunate in that area. Also, we do have morel mushrooms, and every year there's a large contingent of people who head out into the wilderness that we call Kansas, which is like a hedgerow here or there, and they go and they harvest these morels, and they are as much a part of the daily diet here when they're in season than any other vegetable that you might find they're grilled, they're stewed in whatever fashion. They're part of a mainstay, and people are always, we'll go out and we'll harvest, and then we'll call all the neighbors together, and we'll all get together and pool what we've got, and then we'll have a feast. Take some home, put them in your refrigerator, and cook them up. But people don't. I don't think people give the weeds enough credit. We're always quick to say that oh, it's just a bunch of weeds. But even the dandelion, we have so much health, nutritious and vital, wholesome vitamins, minerals, and nutrients that can be harvested without having to put a hoe in the ground, without having to propagate a garden. The thing about nature is it knows exactly what to plant where in order to receive the biggest benefit from the soil that it's in. And it doesn't need to grow in rows. It doesn't need fertilizer. They don't need herbicides, and they're free. And all we have to do is put the effort into going out hunting and gathering. And it's what we call it, when we call each other up, hey, I'm getting ready to go hunting and gathering. You want to come? And we grab our little sacks and we head on out. There's plenty of nutrition to be had, even in the city. There are plants that grow, plantain, dandelions that, everybody wants to get rid of the dandelion, but they don't understand that that's probably one of the best plants that they could put into their diet. person is available to take your call. Please leave a message at...
Sorry about that, Patty. Go ahead.
Well, that's okay. I was just finishing up, but anyone can find out about the herbs in their area. Also, I wanted to let people know, no matter what state you are in, what country you are in, if you go to your local agricultural networks, they will have lists of common herbs and plants that grow in your area. You can usually find these. I know here, because we have a lot of uh, education on herbs and such, you can get lists of the different types of herbs that grow in our area, and also the nutritional breakdown of each herb, how they can be used. Not all areas are like this, because a lot of towns and cities don't recognize the use of these plants and are more pharmaceutically based, and kind of discouraged. They try to scare people and say, "Oh, if you don't know what you're doing, you know." But there's plenty of information out there. Your horticultural research societies, they can show you, and they're all willing to. And it doesn't cost money. The little brochures and the pamphlets that you can get from your horticultural research center are free. They publish them just in order to be able to educate the people of what is in their areas. And this is a great place for people to start, especially if you're just now wanting to get out there and understand what's growing and what you have to benefit you. And, you know, when we're facing the threat of GMOs, when we know that the food that we may purchase in the grocery store may carry with it harmful quantities of pesticides, herbicides, and these things, then it might behoove us to get better acquainted with the wild plants that grow around in our areas, because at least they will provide a vital, wholesome, nutritious blend that we can eat on a daily basis. You can mix these herbs up, and we can become healthy without having to worry about being inundated with herbs that have been herbicide. Because, hey, let's face it, herbs are weeds, you know, and if you can find them growing, then it's a pretty good deal. But we all have the ability to do it, you know, and it will improve your life. Plus, in your situation, you have a wide enough area that you can go and you can harvest these fungus and these mushrooms, and it's a lucrative thing to do. You know, you're able to produce a good income off of that, and there are many areas out there that you can do that. So there's more than one reason to do it. You know.
Yeah. We're actually really blessed that way, Patty, because as Daryl was saying earlier on the show here, I'm going to turn it over to him in a minute here because he wants to talk about chaga. But you can basically now become a free man by following the mushroom circuits in North America. Like I said, Daryl, you can start with our fiddleheads in the spring. We go right into to chanterelles and morels after that. We fall right after that into chanterelles and bolitas, and at that point our pine mushrooms kick in, and after that we have our hedgehog, and all winter long there's an abundance of birch forests up here. We can harvest chaga year round. Chaga now we're getting $50 a pound dried for, and the average clump I could show you right now. I'm holding a piece in my hand, but I can't show you unfortunately. The average piece weighs, when you pick it off the tree, 5 or 6 pounds. It dries down to about 2 pounds out of that. And, you know, in a day, you can go out and find 10 or 15 clumps. You can go out right now and make $300 or $400 a day just picking something that's helping people heal cancer. And I go, wow, man, is there something better you could do with your day? Same with all the other stuff we're picking. We're finding out all the incredible healing qualities. So we're going out in the woods. We're having a ball. We're connecting with nature. We're connecting with our fellow man when we're out there, and our dogs and everything else are just having a ball. And at the same time, we're generating income and helping people. I'm going to turn this over to Daryl right now and let him talk to you a little bit about the chaga and how they harvest it, and exactly some of the reports that he's read. So I'm going to give it to him here for a couple of minutes. Daryl.
Hi, how you doing? Just before I want to talk about Tag, I want to reiterate on something about dandelions. Dandelions are such a beautiful thing, and Oriental cultures have used them in their cultures forever. And it's for intestine and gas problems and stomach problems. But for a commercial harvest too, you think it's a pesky weed, but if I were to fill 5 gallon mushroom pails full of dandelion roots off the side of the highway in August, wash them down, cut them up, dry them up over a wood stove, that would make one mushroom basket dried full of dandelion roots, which is worth $165. So pesky weed or not, the medicinal value, the health value, and the money value of the pesky weed is just phenomenal. And the big companies and governments just don't want you to know that stuff because, you can be an urban forager and forage right down the sidewalks, and there's all kinds of berries and, rose hips or blackberries you get down south. There's just so much out there that you can harvest and make money and be healthy both by eating and consuming to get away from the store a little bit. And it's because it's just big corporations just want your money and they don't care about your health. It's up to you to see all the publicity on TVs and stuff. It's just hard to live healthy nowadays. And I talk to people that I know that forage dumps, and they went from dumps for the last 15 years picking dumps, and they went and buy garbage, in people's waste from food products by eating meals. Now they harvest dumps from pop bottles and cans, and all it is packaging. So your dumps have went in the last 15 years from actual food products in dumps, food waste, to just bags of packaging. So it just goes to show you what you're eating and what it's sitting in, what it's being shipped and processed before you consume it, and it's all those toxins you're getting in. So it's important to get out there a bit and grow your own gardens and forage for your own medicines and health products, and it's a really healthy way to do it. But back to chaga here. Chaga I call the winter pick. I picked quite a bit of chaga in the last few years. A couple of friends up in the Nass Valley, 100 kilometers north of where we have a solar powered cabin that we use for a fall pick. So I spent the last few years steadily up in the bush up there, just totally out of touch with radio and TV, and just lived pretty, really, really humble. And I got into chaga concert. And I found it to be quite the challenge because you're out there in the middle of winter. Sometimes you're trudging because at winter time, it's because when you harvest it, it's because you can't really harvest it in the spring when the leaves come out, or full summer when there's a lot of foliage on the trees. It just makes it very difficult. So you pick in the winter time and you trudge through the snow with your snowshoes, and you look for birches and you find chaga, and then you got to get the chaga out of the trees. So if you have climbing gear, it's great. If you have a ladder, you can do it that way too, but it's pretty hard to pack the ladder for a couple kilometers through the snow. But you harvest chaga and you get it, and that's why it's worth $50 a pound. It's literally, they call it the cancer cure. It's good for gout, it's good for arthritis, they say diabetes, they say anxiety issues. I have friends that buy it off me, that buy 4 or 5 pounds of just blonde chaga only, which is thinner chaga. Our friends only buy the outer black stuff. I also sell it to 2 cancer groups, one in Terrace, BC, and one in Kitimat, BC. Both of them require about every 2 weeks. I sell about 8 to 10 pounds off them, and they distribute it out through to the group and through people that just have other issues and problems. So it's become quite a bit of business. It's a business that's developing, and a product, natural medicine that's developing throughout the world. I have people that take it for 21 days now. They jump 3 feet high, and their wrinkles are coming out of their skin, and they're talking better, looking better. And then a lot of people making the teas, extract, and it's a pretty good, healthy thing. And get other buddies that are on it that lost 30, 40 pounds, so good on weight loss, and their whole attitudes, I guess, have improved. They have to have a positive. Some people have a hard time, say, having a positive attitude, and they get on something positive. And then they just, after a month, you see them again, or 2 months, because you sold them 3 pounds of chaga, and you maybe gave them a deal. You don't have to sell it for $50 a pound. For the cancer group, I sell them only $25 a pound, because they don't need to make $50 a pound off people that are having a medical issue. I just need to cover my costs basically, so it doesn't cost me money. So I mean, it's a really, really blissful thing to be doing. It's also good, like when you have dried chaga, you can take a chunk, have it in your pack in the day on a day pick. You need to get lost or something, which never happens to a lot of people, but does happen. So you can light it with a spark, and it'll go into a coal, and you can add moist branches to it, and that big chunk of chag will stay burning and make you a fire. And it also can be used as an incense, for smudging and stuff. So it's a very, very medicinal, total all-around pure thing that's been used for years in cultures in northern Canada. And it's as for money, it's just a side hobby through foragers, because at foragers we sell a lot of our mushrooms. We go to fresh markets in Vancouver and other markets. We sell for dried products. We sell a lot of pines dried over the internet, just by our email at foragers@live.ca. And do just personal contacts and just small contacts through restaurants and chefs. So we sell a lot of our lobsters that way too. Fiddleheads we sell fresh. Sometimes we go out to Mona Foods in Edmonton, and then from there it gets distributed out to farmers markets. We cover our local farmers markets with fiddleheads. And we also eat fiddleheads. They're one of the highest sources of vitamin C around. And, let's face it, in the old days when trappers were around, this is how they kept scurvy away, that and rose hips. It's all based on old traditional native medicines. And, we get wild onions up here. There's so many herbs and stuff. It's just, you don't need to necessarily work your life to the bone and keep your head down. I've lived for the last 7 years without any government assistance, without any UI or having, I got a class 1 license, so I have a trade, so I don't have to go trucking, because I can make enough money throughout the year doing what I want, when I want, and I have no boss, and I'm totally out in the nature, and there's nothing like walking through the thick virgin forests and valleys of BC, with mountains and glaciers and pure streams and salmon so thick and lava beds and hot springs, and picking up $5 bills, butter mushrooms, all day long. And to do that without a GPS or a compass, and just come out with your pack loaded, you flowing, beaming, and you're off to the buying station, and you just cashed in a $500 bill.
You're gonna have me in the bush.
There's nothing like it. And you just have freedom to be able to sit down in your favorite spot, in your favorite patch, and have your lunch with your dog, and have the squirrel come down, or the marten, or the fox running through. There's just nothing like it. It's just truly amazing.
Thanks, Daryl. Thanks, buddy. Oh, you gotta stop. You gotta stop talking like that, Daryl, because we're gonna jump in the truck and we're gonna go look for mushrooms right now that we know aren't there yet. Thanks for sharing that, Daryl. And I know Daryl gets real passionate about it because he shares the same feelings that I do when we get out in the bush. There is nothing like it, but it revitalizes your soul. We are finding about all kinds. Like, honestly, guys, I really didn't start getting into the herbs and this stuff until about 4 or 5 years ago. But in the last couple of years, I've learned a lot. And it seems the more I learn, the more I'm finding out. And there's quite a few books available now. One of them I just got called Wild Mushrooms in British Columbia, Wild Edible Mushrooms in British Columbia. That book would probably apply to most of the mushrooms around the world because they are growing. These mushrooms grow. The ones we get in British Columbia do grow in most other places in the world. So it's something you can go look into. It's like an unbelievable activity to get out in the bush with your family. Like if you feel the passion in Daryl when he starts talking about it, because there is nothing better than going out and really connecting with your mother and sitting down and reflecting on your life and doing something good for people at the same time. It's just, for me, it just can't get any better. What do you think about that, Pattie? Putting you on the spot. How you doing, Pattie? I haven't heard from you for a few minutes, and what do you think of that?
Let me get my mic back on here. It's absolutely right. There is a change. If you're used to living in the city and the humdrum and cement under your feet all the time, and maybe you got a little garden in your patio backyard or whatever, but there's quite a difference when you actually get into nature, when you put your feet on the ground, on the earth. There is something, and I've seen it happen over and over and over again, where people who are very uncomfortable with nature, because they've been taught after all this time that nature is something to be feared, that there's dangers out there. and a lot of people feel uncomfortable just being out in the middle of nowhere because they're afraid, they'll get lost or whatever. But you get these people out there, and you start getting them to get their feet in the dirt and their fingers in the dirt. And I've seen the change come over them. Not only can you see the tension just leave them, but they start to be more aware. They start to notice that there is life all around them, and they start to look at it not as if it's something that needs to be destroyed, but something that they can cherish, something that they can see the beauty of. And then there's something else that happens. Suddenly, they become advocates for nature because they see the bounty, they see the life, they see the balance, and then they take this home with them. They take these fresh herbs, they take these plants, and they go home and they have a kinship with them that goes beyond their nutritional needs. Suddenly, they want to know more. They want to know what else is out there. They want to experience more of it, and they want to tell their friends. And that's the power of nature. It's the power of drawing us back to our very roots. It reminds us that we are a part of nature, not apart from nature. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, that's what happens to me when I get in the bush, Patty. I don't want to leave. And like I said, I only get a couple months to do this. I'm going to get to a point, I know, here in the future where I'm going to be doing it full time or a lot more time, because it does give you an opportunity to be a free person in a planet where we're under incredible tyranny. Everything done in the mushroom business is paid through cash money. And like I said earlier in the show, it is one of the few things that we can still do on this planet: harvesting herbs, harvesting mushrooms, harvesting funguses in the forest, and expanding our education and our knowledge about it, that allows a person to be a free man, that we can buck against the system that is oppressing us. And that to me alone is a bonus, because if everybody was out doing this, we'd have a lot healthier people, and we'd have a lot of money that the government couldn't get their hands on. And to me, that is a good thing, Patty. Anytime I can keep tax money away from these lying, thieving, cheating scum that we deal with in our governments, that to me is a great thing, and allowing a person to be a free person. Like I said, a lot of people, you don't have to be in British Columbia. There's lots of places in Oregon where there's lots of mushrooms to be harvested. You can pick pine mushrooms all the way down to California. They grow actually in the sand dunes on the beaches of California. So we're not limited. We talk about BC because this is where most of my experience has been, but this is something that can be shared by everybody on the planet. And just like bring people's attention to it and take a look at it, go on the internet, do a little looking at some of the stuff that's available in your area, and take your family out. And if you do have a fear of the bush, well, take a bear spray with you. And there's a simple little tool that you can go buy at Radio Shack or wherever you buy your electronics, called a handheld GPS. And me, Patty, and Paula, I am the worst person in the world for getting lost. I can go in the bush a quarter mile, and I have a terrible sense of direction. But I went and got a handheld GPS there years ago, and I can go in the bush 5 miles now, turn around and walk out. So, and that and a compass, of course, you shouldn't have any problem getting lost. And I don't let that stop you from ever going in there and experiencing what it feels like to get out and really get in touch with nature. Because, like you said, Patty, it brings a sense of responsibility and stewardship in your mind, where you want to protect this and you want this for your children, because you're experiencing these things yourself. And you think about our children coming up and the pollutants and everything else that's going on in our environment, and it really makes you want to rally around causes such as what we're talking about today, and fight against it. And this is one way we can do it. What do you think, Patty?
Well, and it's fast becoming a lost skill, and I don't call it a craft or a art, because it is a skill. It's something that kept our people alive. If it were not for the bounty in nature, we would not be here. None of us would be here today. If it were not for those who studied plants, taught others about the plants and their abilities to provide us with the nutritional benefits that we need to be healthy, we would not be here. The plants provide us with everything that our body needs. There's nothing pharmaceutical that can even come close to comparing. And we're just talking about food. We're not talking about medicine. That's what I want to stress. Uh, let your medicine be your food and your food be your medicine. That is the truth of who and where we come from. And the more, I was going to say too, children respond so much better to an environment to where they are out and experiencing nature. They are even closely adapted, more closely adapted than the adults that I take out into nature. And if we start now educating our children, taking them out with us, having them help us to wild harvest, then we taught another generation to be strong, another generation to carry with them the ability to feed themselves and their bodies and be healthy. So it's something that it's a skill because it's fast being lost. It has to be learned because we've forgotten so much of what the elders have taught us. But there is no reason why anyone can't learn. And the benefits of, like you said, being self-sufficient, being able to work with nature in order to be able to survive and do so comfortably. We have this ability. Now, there are things as over harvesting, and that's why one has to be taught to understand that when you go to harvest, you must know where you're harvesting, and you must know the ability of the plants and things that you are harvesting to repropagate, because a lot of problems happen. Like here in Kansas, we have a plant that's called Echinacea augustifolia. Now, I know everybody's probably heard of Echinacea, purpurea, pallidea, whatever. Those are the common ones that you get when you go to the herb store or whatever. But augustifolia is one of the best echinaceas that there are. Highly, highly, highly packed with nutrients and compounds that feed the body's immune system, that clean the blood, that are good for the bronchial and pulmonary actions of the body. Echinacea augustifolia specifically feeds these areas. But because of over harvesting, because Echinacea augustifolia is a very it needs to be able to propagate itself. It takes 3 years just to become a viable plant from a seed, and the seeds have to be stratified to a certain temperature before they'll even germinate. So if we over harvest, then we stand the chance of eradicating this herb, through our own misuse. So we have to be smart. That's why it is very, very important that we become educated about the plants that we want to harvest. And the good thing about it is that information is everywhere on the web. Anything that you want to know about those plants is there. If you want to take books with you, the Peterson guides are some of the best out there. They have the pictorials. They have them for wild edible plants. Breaks down the nutritional properties of these plants, so you know exactly what you're looking at and exactly what you're going to get out of it, where it grows, the type of soil, how long it takes to germinate, what conditions, all of these things. You can educate yourself, but the important thing is to become educated. Don't just willy-nilly set off and think that you're going to go out there and figure it out on your own. You have to be able to put the homework in, because there are many times that, especially when, I have to say this, when you're dealing with fungus, when you're dealing with mushrooms, they are very much like species, and one may have completely different properties from another, and even in the herb kingdom, there are plants, say like foxglove, that grows wild, that has digitalis. Same thing with Jimson weed. And these are things that you need to be aware of. But you can be aware of. There's nothing to be afraid of as long as you're educated. As long as you put the time in, you will reap the benefits. And anyone, I used to, I don't do it anymore, but it used to be what I did. I took people out on their land, and I cataloged their herbs and plants on the land, what they were, what they did. And they would call me out to their acreage, and we would go out and we would walk it. And I would explain to them the whole time we were on there. When we found a plant, I would tell them about the plant, why it was growing, where it was, and how it was propagated, and what they needed to do in order to maintain it, you know, along with its nutritional and properties and stuff. So all of these things are important, but they're well worth learning. And nothing, there's no one out there, a 10-year-old can learn about these plants and what to use them for and how to respect them, you know.
Yeah, when I was younger, man, I used to take my kids out picking Pattie all the time with me, and boy, you should see their eyes light up when they find a pine mushroom under the moss, man. You teach them how to go looking for these things, and they're better pickers than we are because they're down low to the ground and they can see things my old eyes don't see. So, over the years, man, I know one lady up in the Nass here. She's a buyer, and she takes her 3 and 4 and 5 year old grandchildren out in the bush, and believe it or not, they're picking mushrooms at 5 years old. The whole family, all they've done all their lives is harvest mushrooms. And you want to see well-adjusted, happy, friendly people every year, man. They just can't wait to get in there. And the kids, they all got their own backpacks and rain gear, and they're all just frothing at the door to get out and go find these shrooms. So it is an incredibly great time that you can spend with your family. You can go out and connect with what we talked about, Mother Nature, and how important that is to instill that love for your land and love for nature in you. And like I said, Patty, it really does start you along a path where you want to become a steward, and you really want to start teaching children that this is something that we do have to protect, that all this stuff is available to us. We're not going to learn about it on CNN or ABC. And it is very, very important that we share these experiences with our children because it is like you said, fast becoming a thing of the past, eh? A skill that's going to be lost. And it's important that we keep this in our forefront. Look, I'm going to let Daryl talk here for another minute. I believe this is only a 1 hour show, so in which case I'd be coming close to the end. I'm going to let Daryl just say goodbye and thank you for coming on the show here. And I'm going to say goodbye to Patty, and that'll probably be our show this week, I believe, guys. So here, I'm just going to give you Daryl for a second, guys, and thanks, Daryl, for coming on tonight, and closing comments from you.
Well, for closing comments, I think that for closing comments to everybody that's listening to me tonight and listening to Barry and the other folks out here, that you can live without the system. I mean, you need the system for certain things. You can't drive down the road without driver's license or insurance, but you can access a lot of foods and a lot of health just by looking around for it, identifying yourself with what's around your local area. And, not just for your health, for extra income too. And, it just doesn't go for botanical products, out there to harvest and for medicines. And, it can be right to the pop cans if you can recycle those. You take those off the street. You don't pass 10 cents around, off the sidewalk or a $5 bill. And, you can live. I lived 7 years without the government, without having to go to work. I went a couple of months last year just to get a couple extra grand ahead. But otherwise, I just live off of mushrooms. And I see a pop can, I pick it up. And, I live a simple life because I don't get sucked in to what the government or society wants you to predict you that you should be doing. You don't. At the end of it, what memories you have and what memories people remember you by are just memories. Everything else, just a little bit of wealth you pass on, that's just going to get passed on and spent. So as long as you pass on knowledge is the best thing, and gifts and stuff like that. So it's not a race to consume and, and waste all your life, and that's what people got sucked into by watching TV and the way society has wanted you to live and the way the government projects what you should be like or what you should do. And it's just, I find it just totally crazy because I'm living a fine life and driving down the road every day, paying my little bit of taxes for gas. Well, that pays for my medical, my roads and stuff, and my taxes on food. And it's just been a beautiful way to live. And I just want everybody to know that there's other ways to live without the system, but still living within the system. And anyways, God bless everybody. Take care.
Hey, thanks. They're all great thoughts, buddy. And yeah, we can live outside the system. We don't need the system. Pattie, I'm going to let you make a couple closing comments there, and we'll finish the show here.
Okay, I guess the best thing that I can say is you could take the choice of taking your kids out to a movie and maybe a ball game and having that experience and coming home and just having that simple experience, or you can take your children out to the country and you can open up a whole new world of exploration for them, and something that they can really take within themselves, because they know they belong there and they know they're connected. And if you can do that, I think it would be a much better experience than watching a movie or some men run around some bases. Just saying, just my opinion. Anyway, thanks for having me, Barry.
Hey, Pattie, I thank you for coming. It's always a pleasure to have you on. Well, guys, thanks a lot. I hope we opened up a few light bulbs in a few people's minds tonight, and get you out and maybe experience a few of the things that we've been talking about tonight. There is nothing finer in life, and it is such a connection with your family and your land that it is something I urge everybody to experience in their life, and get out there and spend some time in the bush if you get a chance. I'll be back again next week, and I plan on having a very interesting guest next week, and I'll let you know this week exactly what's going to happen. I thank you again for your time and listening to me babble and ramble on here. Have a great night, folks, and I will talk to you again next week. Thanks for coming and joining in. Bye for now.